Hello, everybody. So I'm Girish Shirodkar. I'm a partner with PwC Strategy and we work in the area of policy development, energy sustainability strategy, as well as a lot of work now on the ESG side. So when we were I was looking in terms of the overall value chain analysis of CO2 from refinery to EOR. There's now a lot of discussion happening on the COP26, which is likely to happen, and lots of enthusiasm around the net zero targets, which countries are announcing. But how many are reducing their emissions down to zero? And really none. None of the countries are really talking about zero emissions. These are all net zero emissions, which means that they will continue to emit CO2. And that's because it's just not possible to reduce it down to zero. There are so many different applications where you will continue to need fuels, need to use them, and eventually which will lead to some amount of emissions. All targets which the countries are giving typically are assuming about a 60 to 80% reduction of emissions, and the remaining has to really come out of either trees that will be planted or more importantly, a lot of sequestration which needs to happen. So capturing of some of these emissions and then sequestering it back or using it for some other applications so that they are not emitted into the environment. And that's where really the importance of the whole capture, CO2 capture and usage becomes so critical, in addition to all the transition that we are doing towards renewable and efficiency improvement. So I'll quickly talk about what's happening on the CO2 capture and usage. Then we'll understand the whole value chain from a cost perspective, right from carbon capture to usage in different types of industries. And finally, how it can be integrated from an India perspective, and some of the policy support which is being provided globally. So globally, when we look at the consumption of CO2, one of the biggest consumers is urea. But here, a lot of the production of CO2 here, which gets consumed, actually happens in the process where ammonia is manufactured, which is part of the larger urea complex. So it sort of produces CO2 in one of the intermediate process and then uses it back eventually when urea gets made. So while it's a big user, it actually is also a big emitter in that sense. The second one, and which is the most important one, is the whole EOR, so enhanced oil recovery, and that is really using almost 80 to 90% of the CO2 which eventually is getting used from an end industry perspective. It's really the major component that one eventually needs to look at. And out of the 80 million tons which is currently getting used, about 33% of that, and at an increasing level, is CO2 which is getting captured from industrial usages, like refineries, like power plants, and which is then getting sort of sequestered or injected into EOR fields. So this is really the biggest component. There are a lot of other smaller industries. They require food grade CO2, but which is then being supplied by various small producers, which are literally producing new CO2. And that really shows the importance of the whole EOR part when we are looking at capturing CO2 and then injecting it back. Given this, from a overall decarbonization push, this has led to a great interest in the whole carbon capture and usage in the EOR side. The number of projects in operations globally are increasing rapidly. Today, there are almost 165 projects under operation, and many of these are mega CO2 EOR projects. These are greater than 1 million tons of CO2 per year. And if we look at it, these are capturing carbon across a wide set of usages or applications. So a lot of this happens from natural gas processing, where natural gas tends to have CO2 as part of the gas which is produced and hence needs to be separated. Hydrogen production is another big area. And these are really happening across various sets of countries. So there are also the Northwest Sturgeon refineries, so a lot of refinery-based projects Hydrogen production also is part of the overall refinery process, where refineries, hydrogen production are one of the critical areas where EOR projects are being where carbon capture projects are being looked at and are integrated closely with the EOR projects of oil production. Now, to make the whole process economical, one has to really look in terms of what is the kind of cost that we are currently facing, and is it really feasible to capture CO2 and then to use it either for sequestration or for some of the end use application perspectives. And when we look at various different applications from where CO2 is being produced in large quantities, and these are the various sort of areas that I've highlighted, and then the cost per ton, which is there on the x-axis. So from a refinery perspective, the hydrogen manufactured from a gasifier process is something which perhaps leads to the lowest cost of capture. Hydrogen coming from the SMR process is comparatively more costlier. The next are the FCCs, the fluid catalytic cracking units. Here, the typical ones which are used in India are the post-combustion at FCC, where the cost of carbon capture is higher. Some of the newer refineries are also planning for CLC globally, but in which case the whole chemical looping combustion, but that's really a sort of newer process, not as spread out from a India perspective, which can lead to a much lower cost of capture. The other part is power generation, where still it is quite costly, and here again there is a wide range from about $40 to $80. The other areas where it is much cheaper are sort of non-refinery areas. All the four that I mentioned, hydrogen manufacturing, FCC, and power generation, are all part of refineries, and where a lot of work is happening, pilots are happening to be able to capture CO2 and then use it from a EOR perspective. Then there are a lot of other areas like ammonia, natural gas processing, where the cost is much lower, fundamentally because in natural gas processing, CO2 is part of it, has to be separated. In ammonia, a lot of the CO2 then also gets used for the urea manufacture. There are interestingly also some pilots around direct CO2 capture from the air, so that we can reduce the CO2 in the air, but that is far more costlier. And hence, sort of capture from refineries is an important part in terms of integrating it with EOR in oil and gas. Now, once we have captured it, the next part is in terms of transporting it to end use areas, and sort of the EOR for oil and gas is a very useful and critical area. But typically the transportation cost just for a 250-kilometer distance for a per ton of CO2 will be in the $2 to $4 kind of a range for an onshore pipeline with about a 5 MT per year capacity. Larger capacity would have a lower range. Offshore, naturally, the cost of pipelines are higher, and hence the overall cost will also be higher. But really, pipelines are the primary way in which the transportation is getting done. Here again, currently, a lot of the activity is happening in the US, in the Permian Basin, where a lot of this is used for additional production of oil and gas. The other part is storage, but if you look at storage, depending upon the saline formations and the oil reservoirs, it can be anything from $1 to $8. So here, if we can ensure that after capturing, we have a close integration with the EOR oil facilities, and instead of having to store it, if we actually use it for a useful purpose where you actually get an end output and beneficial output like oil and gas, or in one of the industries like food beverages, then the whole project can become more viable. Now, talking more specifically from a refinery perspective, and Prerna talked a lot about the whole technical aspects of a refinery, and where all one can both save energy, capture CO2, and also the whole sequestration part to some extent. And I think as she pointed out, there are sort of multiple sources where CO2 gets emitted, multiple points where CO2 gets emitted. This is typically a 300,000 barrels per day refinery. And these are the key areas in terms of how much of gas CO2 is getting emitted. and also the concentration of CO2. Because wherever you have a higher concentration of CO2, it is possible to capture that CO2 typically at a much lower cost. So hydrogen manufacturing units where the CO2 concentration is 99% is where it's cheapest to capture. And on the right hand side, we can see that capture cost per ton could be as low as $15 to $50 per ton. Whereas something like the cogen plant or the gas turbines, uh, these are typical power plants where the CO2 concentration is much lower, like a 4% levels. Whereas something like a FCC, it could be at an intermediate level of about 12%. As Prerna also highlighted, there are lots of different smaller furnaces where you are still emitting CO2, but the concentration is very low, and these are very small and scattered across the refinery. So it's very challenging to capture that. So typically about 5 to 20% of emissions from a refinery will typically come from your hydrogen production units. And that is where capture is the cheapest and what is being tried out globally at this juncture. The next will be FCCs and some of the combined stacks, which has higher concentration of CO2. And a lot of the other one will be low concentration and can't really be captured. This is just some of the examples, and there is a Northwest Sturgeon refinery, which is a 80,000 barrels per day. And this is how some of the global projects are currently sort of taking shape. This is something which got funded around 2015, and it's already it's under execution and it's already been commissioned. It captures mainly the from CO2 from the gasification unit, and which is converting petroleum residue, which is a feedstock to produce syngas. And it's using a sort of Rectisol acid gas removal process from Lurgi with a capacity of about 1.2 million tons per year. The overall capex for this is about 440 million for the capture part of it. Then they are transporting it through a 240-kilometer pipeline, and then eventually being used for enhanced oil recovery, where the injection wells additionally cost about $100 million. And the total storage capacity is almost $18-19 million. So you can continue this for about a 10-year period. Then you will need to look at other potential storage areas. The whole project, 50% of it is funded by the government. And this is to ensure that the viability is there and can be proven, and you can learn from it as you take it to other parts and other industries. Now, coming from an integration perspective, because while you can sort of capture a lot of CO2, eventually, if you can use it, that's where the overall economics start working together. Now, India is the third largest emitter, and hence there is a lot of pressure on India both to reduce emissions, give a net zero target, and we have such a large amount of sort of coal-based power plants, and globally, even those are sort of slowly getting shut down because of the overall emission targets. So we have to really look in terms of how we can reduce our overall carbon emissions and capture and sequester it wherever possible. And it makes a lot of sense from an oil and gas EOR perspective, because when we are looking at the overall oil reserves, while primary recovery can lead to about 20% recovery of the oil, there is a lot of secondary recovery through water flooding, but a lot more can still happen through the EOR. And while we are trying out thermal and various chemical injection, CO2 EOR, wherever CO2 is available, can also help in boosting the overall domestic production, and at a economical manner, improving the overall economics of the capture to usage process. Yeah. The good part is, as we see, there is a great overlap between the various refineries and the various operating oil assets which are there. So close to many of the oil refineries, there are existing oil assets, a lot from the Gujarat perspective, lot in the Northeast perspective, as well as other parts of India. So wherever possible, there is the sort of great possibility of integrating the two together to have those integrated projects like they are doing globally. Now, India, of course, wherever you have gasifier-based refineries and hydrogen production, like the Petcoke one in Reliance, even some of the BPCL, IOCL have also done pilots on gasifiers. Those would be most optimum and cost-effective. But even a SMR-based process is something where a lot of pilots are being done to see the eventual economics and how it works out. But globally, even those are being tried out. And then quickly taking a look in terms of some of the policy support which is being provided by various different governments, whether it's some of the developed countries like US, Canada, or many of the sort of developing nations like Brazil, uh, China, and so on. One of the things that has worked actually is the tax credits or emission credits. So US, where EOR actually has taken up in a big way, both US and Canada, they give emission credits of about $35–50 per ton if CO2 is either commercially captured and commercially used, or if it is permanently sequestered, because in that case you don't get the benefit of the usage side. In many places, there is grant support for some of the capex which sort of goes into it. And finally, in places, government or the state utility sort of provides the necessary investment to pilot out some of these EOR projects. So those are the various things which are sort of being done at a global level. Sort of India is also starting with some of the pilots, but inherently the whole usage and sequestration part is going to be one of the critical areas which will eventually lead us to net zero. And doing a lot of research, pilots, and policy support, and integrating our capture with the usage side on the EOR part is going to be very, very important for us to sort of take forward this journey in India. Otherwise, we will have a lot of pressure in terms of reducing our overall CO2 emissions, and it'll be difficult to continue with our sort of coal power plants and other heavy CO2 emitting plants unless we are also able to sequester or use a lot of this CO2. Thank you. That's it from my side.